The Sega Astro City Mini is Sega's answer to their version of the Mini arcade. The Astro City Mini is similar to the Neo Geo Mini in that it's a tabletop arcade machine, but this one comes with 37 preloaded arcade games, a larger LCD screen, a micro-switched joystick, and 6 action buttons. On the back, you will find a micro USB port, HDMI out to play games on your TV, a 3.5mm headphone jack, and 2 USB-A controller ports. Now let's break down these features starting at the top of the unit. The speakers are located near the marquee, and of course, this is modeled by the original Sega Astro City cabinet, but having these speakers at the top of the unit is especially good. Being that this is a Mini, the speakers are going to be small, but at least they're well positioned. Inside the system menu, there are options to adjust the sound level. Just below the speaker is an LED strip that illuminates to get the light up marquee look. Come down to the screen looks very good, as good viewing angles and brightness. In fact, the shape of the cabinet really complements the screen very well. The black borders around the screen give the same look and feel as the original arcade. Although it does indeed come with a larger screen than the Neo Geo Mini, it's the 16:9 screen playing 4:3 games, whereas the Neo Geo Mini is a 4:3 screen while playing on the Mini version. That being said, the gameplay height is still bigger on the Sega Astro City Mini. Now, playing a game like Scramble Spirit, which is a vertical arcade game, that exposes the largest bezel you'll see in the system. But in the menu, you can go through 3 different options to pick a different bezel of your choice. But what is nice with these Minis is that it outputs to a TV. But because your TV is also 16:9, you'll see the same bezel on your TV. Now, it is a plus that you'll be playing these games in the original aspect ratio. Now, to be clear, the Sega Astro City Mini is very playable as a Mini. But for longer gameplays, I can see that a lot of people will like the comfortable setting of playing on their TV. But here's the deal. When you're playing those games on the TV, you'll want to use a controller. And in fact, this is what the USB port on the backs are made for. Except, well, I made a mistake when I purchased this unit. I figured the compatibility for USB controllers would be pretty high and you could just basically bring your own USB controller. Yet nothing I owned would actually work. There's a good Reddit thread about controller compatibility, but the list is pretty limited. As for the controls themselves, the Mini Arcade control does in fact come with a joystick and buttons with micro switches, and they are actually a pleasure to play with. I've only spent a little bit of time with the joystick and buttons, but I am more pleased with these controls than the Neo Geo Mini. I recall SNK saying micro switches on modern handheld or newer controllers were just too expensive. Well, Sega did it, and I like it. As for the UI, the Sega Astro City Mini is one of my favorite UIs I've seen on these newer systems. While some may compare this to a Pandora's Box because it has the vertical scrolling titles on the left and artwork on the right, the similarities of the Pandora's Box to some make it feel cheap, yet I really like the design, and here is why. The speed in which you can navigate through the menus is quite impressive. A simple feature of showing the game's artwork on the right is also very cool. Seeing that this system is running a quad-core processor, in fact it's the same chip as the TurboGrafx Mini, both have something in common: great animations in the UI. I'm guessing the quad-core ARM-based processor along with the Mali 400 GPU, plus some good developers that know how to take advantage of the OpenGL animations, is really what is allowing this system to shine in the menus. And the quad-core CPU really makes a difference in the gameplay. Here's a scene of Golden Axe: The Revenge of Death Adder, a game that first saw its reappearance in the dedicated arcade 1-up cabinet from Sega. It's also found on the Sega Astro City Mini. The first impressions of this game running on this hardware seems to be very smooth. This animation must be very intensive for this type of chipset, yet it seems to run very well. That being said, not every game runs perfect. There are 3 Wonderboard games on this unit, and not all play equally. Some screen tearing is found. I'm not sure if the screen tearing is also found on PC emulations. I kind of doubt that, but let me know in the comments if you know. But I don't think the screen tearing is coming from the screen itself, as other games don't show this issue. But probably this is localized to just certain games. There is an option for scan lines, and some enjoy this feature, some do not. At least they didn't waste their time with any smooth scaling features. These games look great in all their pixelated glory. As for the overall game lineup, your enjoyment of the system will vary. I'm sure some would wish different titles were on the unit. For me, I purchased this because I saw some familiar titles that I thought I would enjoy playing, and some unfamiliar titles that I also thought I would enjoy to play. 37 games is a fine number. I mean, maybe they should have rounded it to 40 or 50 games, but maybe that's just me liking round numbers. If there is a specific title that you feel is missing from the lineup, don't hesitate to comment down below. Now, some may say that it should have came with a battery. I'm not complaining that it doesn't come with a battery. I figure if you want to use a USB battery pack, you can do that. Including the battery on this mini unit would probably increase the overall cost, and not everyone is going to want that. As for USB-C, I kind of wish that this was more mainline in 2020. I mean, a lot of the devices that I use are starting to use USB-C, and I just love that jack so much. I wish all units that I bought today came with it. Unfortunately, this unit does not. A true 4x3 screen would have been more desirable instead of a 16x9, but I also understand Sega is at the mercy of supplier availability. When it comes to 3/4 scale cabinet, 17-inch 4x3 is the largest we see in stock readily by suppliers. You jump to 24 inches, and now you're in the 16x9 world. I bet cost and availability plays a role in all of these options. The area that I'd like to see more competition is in the tabletop 8-inch screen products. Now, Arcade 1-Up is selling these tabletops called Countercades for about $100 to $150 now. And it's actually running a very similar electronic hardware, but it comes with standard joysticks and buttons. In 2021, we are told we're going to see some horizontal Countercade games. So maybe we'll see some games like Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat. That would be pretty cool. What Arcade 1-Up could learn from these minis is to add HDMI as an option. HDMI countercades would be pretty awesome. Imagine playing an 8-inch screen, but you could also bring that 8-inch tabletop to your TV and play on HDMI as an option. They also came out with like a Mega Man HDMI console, which basically runs the same hardware as the countercades, very similar. So I think they could basically combine those technologies and make one product. As for Sega, I hope this is only the beginning. They would do well in North America if they decided to sell an 8-inch screen. They could probably get away with this screen that they have as well. But for 8-inch, I think that would be really, really cool because mainly I haven't seen it other than Arcade 1-Up. Maybe they could sell with about 20 games in that tabletop form factor. I mean, hey, they're Sega. They don't need to pay themselves for licensing, right? Or maybe we'll continue to see Sega license their arcade ROMs to Arcade 1-Up here in North America. But hopefully they'll do it in that, countercade tabletop form. I could see that too. In the end, I'm not disappointed in the Sega Astro City Mini. I'm sure with enough time, people will spot out more flaws, but so far the upside outweighs the downside for me. Now, out of all the things that we talked about today, we got the speakers, the screen real estate, the aspect ratio, and the buttons and how they feel good. Probably the most important thing is that games list. So I'm going to put the games list in the description, and I'd love to hear from you. What are the top 5 games that you love from this unit? Can you even make it to 5? I'll give you mine. You give me yours. So I'm saying Virtua Fighting was a good game for them to add on this. Golden Axe, The Revenge of Death Adder. I mean, these are obvious, right? Altered Beast, Shinobi, Space Harrier. These were the big titles that pulled me in and said, okay, I would love to play these games on a unit like this. I hope that it plays well, and I think it plays pretty well. Some of the other games that I saw some screen tearing on, to be honest, Wonder Boy isn't a game that I'm dying to play, and I played one of the alternate versions on it, and I didn't really see an issue with it. So that's my list. Let me know what yours is. If this is the first time you've seen a video from me, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.